Still working on. Oh wait, do we see audio? Are you guys getting audio? Can someone in chat give me a? Do you see audio? Okay, thank you. Obviously you can't see audio, but you can hear audio. I'll crank it up a little bit. Um, it may take me today. Is that any better? Okay. Um, okay, perfect. So I will start over. Thanks everybody for helping me get this worked out. I haven't done this since May, and I haven't barely even touched this computer where the keys are all falling off. It's my broadcast station. Um, so if I haven't met you before, welcome to the class. Sorry about the static. We'll do our best. I hope that enough of it comes through that you can hear. Yeah, I hear it. I hear what you're talking about. Um, I'm not sure why there's static. Anyway, okay. So my name's Boyd Trollinger. If you saw John Trollinger or Jay Trollinger, my first name is John. My middle name is Boyd, which is what my parents decided to call me, so I go by Boyd. This is CSCI 10, Computer uh, Architecture and Organization, and you didn't hear me say it earlier, but traditionally we used to call this class Assembly Language Programming, which I think was a little more accurate because we do the way we explore most of the concepts in this class is by doing programming. So we will be using a language that you haven't used before, but it's called HLA. But you will find, I believe, that it's so similar to Go or Python or C++ or JavaScript or any of the languages that you have experienced before you got here. It should be so similar that you'll pick up on the small differences pretty quickly. Okay, so my plan for today is to do a quick walkthrough of the course in Canvas. Yeah, it's actually pretty fun. There's things about the HLA language when we start using it that I think are actually better for doing the text-based programs that we tend to do in computer science studies. It has some features that I think are pretty nifty. So hopefully you guys will have the same experience that I do, which is I like programming in it. Okay, so we're going to look through the courses. I have it set up in Canvas. If you've had me in a prior semester, you know that I traditionally put my materials on my own website, and I will not be doing that this semester. All of the materials, pardon me, all of the information about this class will be in Canvas. So let me just show you how I've structured the class, and I know this is kind of weird when you're taking a whole course load and you have different teachers and they have a different way of organizing their materials. So the best thing that I could think to do is organize it in a way that I think is the same week after week after week, that it's very, very consistent, that everything is always due each week at the same time. But I do know that one of your challenges is going to be that you're going to have to juggle my class and other online classes, and our structures are going to be different, probably. But hopefully mine makes sense to the larger number of people. Let's see. Oh, Tyler, welcome. Captain Price, welcome. Glazer, welcome. I think I already said hello to Atsuya, Killer Pear, and Sawyer. Try to just call attention to people who are here so that you know I'm watching, that you're out there. And please, if you have any questions, add them to chat, and I will restate them for people who view the video later. Okay, so Part 1, the course in Canvas. So I've tried to make the main page have sort of everything that you would need to quickly access key information every week. So I will be here except for on the Labor Day holiday, which we're not supposed to to do things on the federal holidays. Except for the Labor Day holiday, I will be here every Monday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. roughly. I can stay longer if people are here and have questions, but I will do basically one live lecture a week for your class. Occasionally, I might record a demonstration or a walkthrough of one of your lab assignments. And if I do that, then I will post the video on my on the Canvas page. So there's that. Yes. So yes. So the question is the stream an overview of the week's content? And yes, it will be. So every week I will go through the key components, particularly the lab work every week, to make sure that everyone has a sense of what's expected on the lab. The homework is mostly reading from the online book and answering questions from that. Okay, so one of the places that you can see me live every week is here every Monday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's optional, and I will take the video recordings and post them on my website when we're done. Another way that you can see me sort of in real life is by booking an office hour meeting with me. So the Confer Zoom link, which is here in the main page and also here on the side, that has a schedule of 15-minute sort of one-on-one office hour meetings. So if you want to just give me a chance to get to know you by name and face and talk about whatever, or if you have specific questions, that's one place where you can catch up with me face-to-face in real time is by signing up for a one-on-one meeting using Confer Zoom. So that's the second way that you can see me live every week. The third one, did I put that here? No, I didn't put it. But the third one, which you'll see come up in announcements when I'm doing it, so for your class, this will be roughly every other week. Every other week for your class, I will go online for an hour on Zoom, not to present content or lecture, but just to have a discussion and do a question and answer session. So what you see in the announcements up here is an hour-long block this week where I will be there, and any number of you can join that session and listen in on the discussion or ask questions or introduce yourself to us, those kinds of things. If you click on that link, you'll see a Zoom link, and if you click on that, then what will happen is if you don't already have Zoom on your computer, you'll get prompted to install it at that point, probably. Anyway, I'm sure all of you know that we're really putting a beating on Zoom these days so that we can have some FaceTime with other human beings. So this week, a third opportunity for sort of in real life face-to-face time with me this week will be this Wednesday from 11 to 12. And that will not be lecture content, and I won't be recording it because we may use people's names, and there's potentially a couple of student privacy issues associated with that kind of a interactive class discussion. So that's just an hour where you can drop in, watch, listen, ask questions. I will answer them, but I won't present any actual content. Okay. And then if you, always for this class, if you've had me before, this will be, yeah, other than Zoom. Yeah, that's true. I'm just in the habit of using Zoom at this point because they're paying for us to have sort of a professional license of it. Although I got to tell you, I use Linux for my desktop computer, and Zoom isn't nearly as nice in Linux as it is in Mac and Windows. You can't do backdrops. You can't do thumbs up. There's features that aren't there. But I am going to use Zoom. And also we have the sort of embedded scheduling feature for Zoom, so I'm just sticking with that. Okay. Anyway, if you need to get in touch with me, or you want to have some FaceTime, a real life meeting or a live meeting, but none of my schedule works for you, please let me know in the Canvas inbox, and we can arrange a separate time to meet that fits your schedule better. And at the bottom of the home page is the overall schedule for the semester. I think it makes life easier if you have a sense of like how quickly to get to material, as opposed to going and searching around the modules in Canvas. So the major sort of topic groups by week and the module for each week are linked here, and then you'll also see highlighted the due dates for projects. There's 2 individual projects. Those are going to be programming projects like you've probably had in Programming and Algorithms 1 and or 2. And then there'll be 1 team project, which will be a small programming project, and that's mostly just so you sort of have the experience of working together with some of your classmates like you would have done in the lab environment if we were on campus. That's the home page, and I'll just go down the list of the links here, and then we'll talk through the syllabus real quick. So the announcements will just be it will grow as I make new announcements. The main thing I would ask of you all in terms of announcements is that you come to the main page of the course on a regular basis and check the announcements. It's not likely anything big is ever going to change. The announcements for the most part will just be reminding you when I'm going to do one of those group live meetings. I thought about Discord, but I tried it in the spring, and only 2 people out of all my classes ever used it. So I didn't, because I've never been able to get people to use Discord. The question was if I considered Discord, and I have considered it, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm certainly happy to set one up. But I found that most people just won't go in there, so I decided not to bother you with it. But I'm happy to set one up if there's people who would like to do that. And then we're going to use sort of a programmer-friendly discussion board that I'll talk about later in the hour. Okay, so announcements. The main thing is to just monitor the recent announcements, so you can see the next time that I post a live question and answer session. Modules. So if you click on modules, let's see what students can see right now. So you can only see the first 2 weeks because I haven't posted, but I'm going to be rapidly posting more content. The modules will be the content for the entire semester eventually. This week my goal is to get through week 4 in all of my classes, and then sort of just as fast as I can get more content, it will go up there. But the first 2 weeks are up. The thing I would point out to you about the modules is that we have 2 modules this week. A week 0, if you're a computer scientist you get that. A week 0, which is just to make sure that you've looked at the basic rules of the course and have a sense of how it's going to operate, with a little quiz at the end. The quiz is redoable as many times as you need to get 100%. So you don't have to do it if you don't get 100%, but if you want 100%, you can just redo it and redo it and redo it till you get 100%. Yes. So the question is, once I start loading up more modules, can you finish them whenever you want? And the answer is, well, can you finish them early? And the answer is yes. So you can complete all of, I won't have any of the modules locked down. You'll notice that the prerequisite for every module is just the orientation for the class. So once you've done the orientation and I get more modules, then you can go into them and complete them whenever you want. So technically, if you're very aggressive, you will have the ability, except for the team project, to finish the semester's work well in advance of the end of the semester. So the regular modules, which is week 1 and week 2 as examples, They will be exactly the same every week. So there'll be a page talking about what are the goals for this week, a page linking to readings. We're going to go into the week 1 module after I go through the Canvas orientation. Homework, which is typically 10 multiple choice questions based on the readings. The lab assignment, which is the coding work. And then you're gonna get sick of this, I know, I apologize for this, but because we're stuck online, the best way that we can, at least, we don't really have terrific options for making sure that we have some kind of class interaction going on. So every week there will be some kind of a prompt, and I'm using a tool called Piazza, which is a separate website, and I'll go show you that here when we dive into the week 1 module. And then every week we'll also have reminders about things that are in your future. For example, the first project is sort of the longer term thing that's now in your future. So that's the modules page, and that should grow pretty quickly. I have 17 weeks worth of them, so I will get them up as fast as I can. Okay, so that's that page. The Confer Zoom page. Oh, I'm looking at it as a student. So because you'll see down here this pink. So this is sort of simulating the student's view of this. So if you go to the Confer Zoom link, though, you will see a schedule. Actually, let me leave the student view and go show you that real quick. Okay, so if you go into Confer Zoom, you will see a schedule. And I clicked on the appointment booking link, but there's an opportunity to sign up for individual Zoom meetings if you want to have sort of live one-on-one meeting. Let's see, readings. There are no required texts. No, it's all online. Let's see what else. Yeah, so for this class we do have a book, but it's a PDF book that's online. I'll go show you, but it can also be purchased in hard copy if you want. But I've linked all the assignments to totally online readings. Okay, so that's the Confer Zoom tool. Let me switch back to what it would look like to you. Okay, the guides. So you'll find these things linked in other places, but you have some software set up to do, and you have some. You're going to have to learn how to use the tools that we're using for this course. So I've created a series of guides, and again, you're going to see one of these when I do a dive into the week 1 material. But I also just created a separate table. So whenever I create some kind of a guide, which is typically how to do something and a series of steps with screen captures associated with it, I will add the topic and a link to the guide. And again, we're going to see these guides when I dive into the week 1 material. But that's what that is. If you need to know, like, oh man, I've never done this before at all, how do I complete the first week's lab assignment? There's a guide specifically for that. And then there's also, once you get into week 2 and beyond, then I forget, how am I supposed to start a lab? Well, there's a guide for that too. I'm just going to peek over at chat and see if I can answer any questions. Yes. So the question is, are you installing Linux on a virtual machine? Yes. I've actually created the virtual machine for you already. So, but there is some setup to do that. The reason I did that, well, I'll show you when we dive into the week 1 material. But the reason why I created a virtual machine is because it is complicated to install the HLA software on many different computers. So I just decided I would take that problem off of all of our plates and pre-configure a system for you all to use as the software on it. The other reason why we're using a virtual machine is because the HLA language is pretty specialized, and I wanted to be able to create syntax highlighting for your specific use, and turned out it was easiest for me to do that in a Linux virtual machine that I know you could all use. So that's another reason why we did that. So yeah, someone's asking like why is this guide here? VirtualBox, which you're going to see in a little bit, is the way that we're going to run virtual machines, which is the way that we're going to gain access to the HLA programming tools. I am using Ubuntu. That's the LXQT version of Ubuntu. But you don't have to do any of that. Hopefully it'll work. We're going to try. I'm going to try it here, so you can watch me do it here in just a bit. Okay, so that's the guides page. The videos page. Presently, this is my first video. So once I've made this video, it will appear in this week's lecture page, and it will also be linked to the videos page. So when I make a video, I will put the date that it was created, and then I will list the topics that were discussed in that video, so that if you are coming back later and you want to review something, that page is there for you to be able to do that. And then, of course, you know how the grades part works, and then we'll hit the syllabus. So that is part one of this lecture, is just to show you the layout of the course. For the most part, you can get to all the material that you need all semester on the home page. Announcements for the group live Zoom meetings will be here. Links to how to book one-on-one time with me are here. A link to my Twitch channel and the date and time that I'm doing this broadcast is here. And then a schedule for the whole semester with the major topic groups and links to the modules. Okay. So the syllabus, and then we should have time, I hope, to start diving a little bit into the actual content of the course. Okay, the syllabus. So this is computer architecture and organization. Presumably you weren't allowed to enroll in the class unless you'd taken at least Programming Algorithms 1, either at Butte College or some other college. So the assumption in this class is that you know your way around the basics of programming. So we're not here to learn programming. We're here to learn how computer processors respond to your programming, is effectively what it is. But to do that, we will write code to explore the capabilities of a modern computer processor. Okay, so this is from the official state outline. Modern computer systems at the assembly language level. Learning outcomes, that's also, you've probably seen these now if you've taken a college course in California in recent years. You've had someone talk about student learning outcomes probably. These are what we hope, if you have a passing grade in the class, you have experienced or are capable of doing. Identify the key features of a modern computer system. Write assembly language instructions that map high-level constructs onto machine language. So this is why you have to have a programming class in your background, because we don't teach high-level constructs. We teach how they work on the processor. And then writing simple program segments is also, you'll have to learn how to do those in our specialized language for this class, but it's going to look very similar to what you've experienced in other languages. Okay, so for the materials, the book, I'm going to click on this link and take you to it so you can see what it looks like. As much as possible, by the way, I've tried to make links pop out into separate windows or separate tabs so that you don't lose your place in Canvas. Alright, so here's the book. It's why all this garbage is here at the top, I don't know, but this kind of looks like a circa 1998 website or something. Doesn't really matter. At the bottom of this page, hopefully you're seeing that. Yeah, okay. At the bottom of this page, Don't worry that it says Linux. There's nothing special about the book that's related to Linux that we're ever going to use, but we are going to be working inside of a Linux system for our programming. Anyway, so you'll see that there's multiple versions here. There's an online HTML edition. There's an online PDF edition. If you click on them, you'll see that they are different. My assignments link to the PDF edition. But you can also, they're zip files. You can download the entire book either in HTML or I recommend PDF since that's what I'm linking to onto your computer. And then way at the very, very bottom, there's a link to a publisher called No Starch Press. And they actually have this book and they will sell it to you in hard copy if you want. But all of my assignments point to the online PDF edition. I'm going to click on this link and show you what this next. So here's this garbage at the top. I'm not sure what's weird about his web page, but it's there. But if you scroll down, here's all of the contents of the book. So when you click on a reading assignment, you're going to be brought typically to one of these PDF files. I forget which one we're reading this week, but I know that we're going to do this Hello World one. So I'm going to click on that one and just show you it looks like an actual book because it is. It's got subsections to the left. So that's what your book's going to look like. And this is where I will link you to in your assignments. You're going to see that here in just a bit. So that's the book, all broken down into a separate PDF file per chapter, basically. Okay, I hope that made sense. Okay, so that's nothing that you need to purchase, and links to the specific chapters will be in your reading assignment in each week's module. Okay, you're also going to need a piece of software. Now the first week's lab assignment has links. I need to fix this actually and make it a link. But anyway, we're going to need a piece of software to run virtual machines, which is called VirtualBox, and then the virtual machine image, which I have created for you, and I'll show you here in just a second. So these two steps right here are how you get to the software tools that you need to do the programming assignments. The third material that you need is an account on Piazza. And this link should take you to the discussion board for this class. The reason why I'm using Piazza and not the internal Canvas discussion boards is because it's a lot more fully featured and it was created with programmer types in mind. So you can put code snippets in there in many languages and it will highlight them. It's a more robust discussion platform for us computer science people, or engineers if you're an engineer. So there's nothing to purchase. This is all free stuff. Okay, course requirements. So there is one quiz the whole semester, and it's in the week 0 module, which you're going to see again in a second because I'm just going to walk through it real quick. This is just to ensure that you have taken the time to read and understand the critical policies about the course. So there's just one, and it's only in the week 0 module. There's no other quizzes. Homeworks. So you have one every week, which is almost always 10 questions that are multiple choice or mix and match, those kinds of questions. Those are based on the readings. So what is expected that you will do is that you will go do the readings, probably leave the readings up in your browser, and then you go open the homework and you start answering the questions in the homework. One per week. Lab, this is the programming, the weekly programming. These are usually pretty small, but we will do one programming assignment per week. And those are all, you'll see one, I'm going to do it here in a second. This is why we need the virtual machine software, is so that we can do this programming work. You will have one discussion prompt every week. So in the module, there will be a discussion prompt that asks you to go to Piazza and respond to a prompt of some sort. Those are the every week things. So a homework assignment every week, a lab assignment every week, and a discussion prompt every week. And then there's two kinds of longer term things. So we have two programming projects. These will look very familiar to you since you've taken a programming class. They are like projects you see in other programming classes, but in this class we do not very many. We just do two. Sort of one that's due halfway or so through the semester and the other that's due at the end of the semester. And then there will be a team project. And that will also be a programming project, but it will be designed to give you an opportunity to sort of have that experience of developing a piece of software working with a small group of your classmates. Okay. That's the kinds of work that we do in the class. And hopefully the modules are organized in a way that you don't really have to memorize any of this. You will just sort of see everything laid out in the modules that you need to do each week. Course policies. So this is just from experience, and also this is pretty common among the faculty at Butte College. If you completely disappear for 2 weeks and you haven't done any kind of work or submission for 2 weeks, and I have no idea what came of you, typically that's when I would drop you from the course, assuming that you have stopped participating. So just keep that in mind. That if you haven't submitted anything over the course of 2 weeks, you probably will get dropped. Yes. So the question is, we have 2 individual projects and 1 team project, and that is correct. Yes. I assume a high amount of interaction. So there's this statement about cheating or plagiarism. So the idea here is, in the Piazza discussion, if you have a question about a program or a lab assignment or homework, ask it. And if you know the answer, answer it. To me, that's just collaborating so that everyone learns effectively. The thing you don't want to do is ask someone to send you their file for a lab assignment and then you just submit literally exactly the same thing that they did. That would be cheating. But telling them, hey, I'm having a problem with this section, what did you do? And you say, that would help me solve my problem, that's okay. And of course, on a team assignment, you're all going to submit one thing. So it's expected on the team project that you will obviously work together and submit one piece of work. But on all the other work, it should be your work, allowing for the fact that you are going to help each other and I'm going to be helping you solve problems. I don't take anything late. It's just doesn't do a student any good to get in the habit of turning in things in late. If for some reason life derails you at a point in the semester, and you don't see yourself catching back up, there's other ways to deal with it than doing late work. So I just don't take late work. Everything is due before midnight on Sunday at the end of each week. Let's see. Yes. So Captain Price has noticed this. Like, most people develop their own style, and an instructor who's reading their code every week kind of gets to where they start to recognize the way people do things, and it's pretty obvious. Probably, yeah, and it's also pretty obvious when someone who has been struggling for weeks suddenly turns up with a very polished program. It sort of raises the suspicion that maybe they got more help than they should have, i.e. they copied someone else's work. So yeah, good point, Captain Price. It is pretty hard if everyone's doing an honest job to learn how to do this stuff. All right, so please notice the late assignments thing. Once the deadline for an assignment happens, the assignment is no longer accessible. But you will have a chance to work ahead. Someone asked earlier in the session. I will be posting a whole bunch of content, so you will have the opportunity to work ahead if you like. Okay, so there's that. And then here's just a breakdown of how the points are distributed. So the one quiz, it's 50 points. That's just to ensure that we all get on the same page in terms of policies. So these three elements I want you to take note of here. We're going to have 17 weeks worth of homework, lab, and discussion. I will keep the 15 highest scores you get on homework, labs, and discussions. So if I only keep 15 and you can do as many as 17, how does that work? Well, if you don't do something on a given week because you forgot or you just didn't feel like it or something else took priority, that's fine. You just take a 0 and that 0 will get dropped at the end of the semester as one of your lower scores. So one of the reasons why I sort of excuse myself for not taking late assignments is that I've built into the course 6 assignments that if you don't even do them at all, those get dropped from your final grade calculation. The projects don't get dropped, so there's 2, they're 500 apiece, so those need to be prioritized when you're coming up on the deadline so that you get something submitted. And then the one team project is a little bit less points because I hate having my whole semester, that some people feel like their whole semester is sort of relying on other people doing an honest job. So I didn't want it to hurt like that. But I also want it to be an important experience. No, they're not extra credit, unfortunately. So here's how, if you do all 17, well, my experience tells me you're not going to need the extra credit anyway. People who do all the work almost never do need the extra credit. So no, they don't go down as extra credit, but what they can do is get you a bump if I find that your average at the end of the semester is like 89.6. And you've done all 16 or 17 of the assignments, it's likely that you're going to get a bump to the next letter grade. So in terms of the actual calculation, they won't get factored in, but in terms of that little fudge factor at the end of the semester, it probably would be considered. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Let's see, 11:40, so I think I'm doing okay. I don't want to rush too much, but I also told you it would only be an hour, so I don't want to eat into your day. Okay, that's the course syllabus. So now I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to dive into content a little bit. So this week, August 24th, is unusual because there's the orientation week 0 module plus the regular content week 1 module. So I'm going to go click on the week 0 module and go look at it. So this is August 24th. So here's the week 0 module. These 1, 2, 3, 4 things at the top are just content. They're just things to read. The rocket is a quiz, so the expectation is that you would do that as the last thing that you did in the module. Now what I recommend you do is open up the orientation quiz separately and then have these as reference that you can sort of flip back and forth between them. But let's just quickly look through a module. So here's I actually spent some time writing this, so if you read it, I'd be pleased. Anyway, this just kind of does what I just did in the broadcast, but in words. So tell you about what the class is. If I haven't met you before, I'm now, I think, the oldest person, the senior member of the computer science department. So I think because I started at Butte in 2001, I think this means that I'm starting my 20th year here. I did computer science at Chico State, like some of you will end up doing. Anyway, it's about me. Here's a little bit about the course in my opinion. Just because some people ask, like, what is this course here for? Well, that's my opinion about it. And then there's a little bit of description of the materials we'll use and how they work. But anyway, that's just stuff to read as you work through the module. So you click next. So here's 0.1. what this page does is it explains to you what the links on the left are for. Now I just did that in the broadcast, but you can always go back here if you want to and read the words that I've written that describe what is this Confer Zoom link for. That's course navigation. All the links. And then a couple of the links at the left, so the inbox, which is the way this semester you'll get in touch with me outside of class, and then the Canvas help. The one thing I'll tell you, by the way, about this Canvas help, I never use it. Google is way better at finding Canvas help than Canvas is at finding Canvas help. So just type Canvas space and the question you have about Canvas, and there's a good chance that Google will get you access to the answer to your question more quickly than Canvas would. Okay, so and then I just click next. So this is the next page of the module. These are just some things that are based on the experience of a variety of faculty and what they see helps people be successful, especially in an online course. This is not easy to discipline ourselves in an online course. The main things are to try to remember that if we were attending class, we would be together in a classroom face-to-face for 5 hours a week. So somewhere online we have to make up for the content and the interactions that would have happened in those 5 hours a week. I will do that with this 1 hour a week. And the reason why I'm not doing a lot more broadcasting is because I know not everybody is going to attend these, so I'm going to try to keep. I don't want to make them feel like they're like getting a less good experience because it's an online course. But anyway, just remember that in a typical semester we'd be together 5 hours a week, and then it would be expected that you would spend somewhere like 4 to 6 hours a week outside of class doing work for the class. So for us, that's, what is that, roughly 10 hours a week for this class for an average student's workload. Now, you may find your experience to be different. What I'm telling you, though, is that at the start of the semester, allow yourself plenty of time. You don't want to sit down at 11 p.m. on Sunday thinking, I'll knock it out in an hour, and discover you couldn't. Leave yourself that time for a few weeks until you sort of get a feel for the flow of the course. Another thing is just to remind you that we do a lot of reading online in an online course because this is how we replace the content that we're not getting face-to-face, at least some of it. So there's a lot of reading. Let's see. The modules are created to be worked through in a particular order. If you don't work them through in order, that's fine. But just know that week 0, week 1, week 2, I imagine that you'll start at 1.0 and then go to 1.1 and then 1.2 and work them in that order. You don't have to, but that's the idea. You are going to have to do a lot of motivating yourself, since you're not going to show up in a classroom and me sort of confront you at the door and say, hey, where have you been for 2 weeks? It takes a lot of self-discipline to be successful in an online class. And then finally, look for ways to participate. So we have discussion. It's not the greatest. I'm really, really happy that a lot of you are, at least a few of you, are actively adding to chat. So please go nuts with that. We can also do that in the Zoom meetings as well. Ask and answer questions. Don't ever feel like you're stepping on my toes if you answer a question. Because a correct answer is a correct answer, and it's good from whoever it came from. Okay, so that's just some thoughts of mine and some other faculty about things that they notice students who are successful doing. Moving forward in the module, so this is kind of, we talked about this when we went through the syllabus, but this is just a breakdown of what the assignments look like, a reminder about the 17 weeks and dropping the lowest 2, how often they happen, that kind of stuff. A reminder that I don't accept late work. I do accept partially completed work, by the way, so if you just can't finish it but you did part of an assignment, submit it that way. You can take partial credit. a reminder about how to catch up to me, and then finally a reminder about ways that we can communicate with each other. With me, one-on-one, the Canvas inbox, but Piazza, if you have a question, throw it in there and see if we can get an answer going. Okay. Last one for week 0. I'm not going to take the quiz, but there's a quiz in here. Notice you can take the quiz, retake it as many times as you want to get all the right answers. So it's called a quiz because that's what Canvas calls it, but get as many. If you can get 100%, that's great. Does it take me to week 1? That would be awesome. It does. Okay, so if I click next, I'm taken into week 1. So now I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to see if I can cram it into 10 minutes. I'm going to go back to the home and access the week 1 module that way, just to show you that one more time. So that was the week 0 module. That's the orientation. You need to complete that before you can access any of the other modules. So once you've completed week 0, then the whole rest of the modules are opened up to you. Although I've only posted 2 weeks for now. Although this afternoon you'll probably see 2 more go up. Okay, week 1. So this one is a typical week. So this is what every week will look like. There's a couple of read these documents. Then there is a homework. It's structured like a quiz because that's how Canvas works. But these are readings based on or questions based on the reading, and sometimes I'll try to clarify something. In lecture. A lab assignment, which we're going to look at, and I'm going to see if I have time to do it. A Piazza discussion prompt, and then reminders about future work. So let's go into this real quick. So the goals is here just to tell you what I mean for us to experience in a given week. So the goals for this week are to get the Piazza account that we need to participate in discussion and set up the 2 pieces of software. They're connected to each other, but set up the software that we'll need to actually do the programming work in the class. The second part is sort of the textbook content for the week, which is to get some basic introduction to what is computer architecture. So these are just here to tell you what's it all about. What's the stuff that I'm about to experience all about. Okay, go into, so week 1, part 1. There are a few Wikipedia readings in here because I think, so occasionally if I think that our book comes up a little bit short or that I find the wording in a Wikipedia article better, I might add a Wikipedia reading. So there's 3 Wikipedia articles plus 1 textbook chapter. I did put a note in here. In most cases, the part of the Wikipedia article that is most useful is the first 1 or 2 introductory paragraphs. So rarely do you have to read the entire Wikipedia article. In most cases, you'll find that reading the introductory paragraphs gets you everything that you need. I'm going to click the link to the book. Now, if you're going at it from a different direction, the section that I'm linking here is Volume 2, Chapter 1. But if I click on this, it will take me to the PDF for Volume 2, Chapter 1. So this is the reading. It's a bit, and again, it's an online class, so we do more reading perhaps than we'd like to do. But the questions for the week come from, the homework questions come from those readings. After I get done with today's broadcast, I will embed the video here. And also I will put a link to the video in the videos page. So after Monday's broadcast every week, the lecture will actually show up and be embedded there. Alright, that's 1.1, so next will be 1.2. That's the homework, so these are questions related to the readings. So this is always going to be the same. I recommend that you just open the readings in tabs and use them for reference because there's no timer on the homework. They're always, pretty much always going to be 10 questions at 10 points apiece. And you have one chance for a redo if you miss an answer or two. But in theory, you don't need to miss any questions because you can have the materials just open in front of you. So it does say take the quiz, but it's not timed. It can be redone once, and I keep the higher of the two scores that you made, and you can just be referring to the readings as you take the quiz. 1.3. Okay, so this is the lab. I know that this is a lot of words here, but this is a typical lab setup. Usually I will have a description of what's the purpose of the lab. Then I will have a set of detailed instructions for you to follow. And then I will have a rubric at the bottom that tells you how they're being scored. So in the requirements, one thing to note here is you have to submit working code. If you don't submit working code, we can't evaluate it, so you end up getting a 0. So make sure that when you send code, it works. But then the rubric tells you where the points are coming from. This one is ridiculously easy in terms of the coding work because the software is a pain in the rear. And then hopefully it works for everyone, but what you do at the end is you actually take, you copy and paste all of the code that you wrote into the assignment. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to have to go over, so I apologize. This one's going to go long. So I'm sorry if you have to end up having to bow out, because this one's going to end up going long. Okay, so I'm going to go over before I'm just going to keep stepping through the module to show you what else is there before I come back to the lab. So the point 4 section each week is a Piazza prompt. In the first week, it's just going to remind you to create a Piazza account. That link should take you to the Piazza boards for this class, and then you'll see a prompt. So the first week's prompt is just tell us a little about yourself. You can stay anonymous. I can still see who made the post, so you'll still get credit, but you don't have to use your actual name in there if you don't want. I noticed some students have already been into the Piazza boards in another class of mine and posted, so I think these instructions work. Yeah, so if you submit a lab assignment and you find before the deadline that it's broken and you want to fix it, you can resubmit the assignment. So you can resubmit the lab assignments as many times as you want before the deadline. So you can submit it and like, oh crud, it doesn't work. You can resubmit it with an update in it. So you'll be able to fix your mistakes like that. Okay, so discussion prompt. I don't take late work, so after the deadline, I just don't accept it anymore. Remember that there are 2 throwaways, so your 2 worst grades on labs get discarded. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish the walking through the module or stepping through the module before I do a lab thing. So the last thing that you'll encounter is just reminders each week. So there's going to be the obvious reminders like did you finish this week's work, and then if there is something upcoming right now, eventually the team project's going to show up as the reminders, but right now the individual project, first project is here, and I think it is ready to go. It is. So you'll notice it looks very much like a lab. It has a description, has kind of a set of instructions, although on the projects I don't give you explicit instructions per se. I leave you some more space to do your own thing. And then a set of requirements so you can see how the points are awarded. And then at the bottom of the project, since I didn't know if I would get a chance to, but just in case there's people who want to get an early start, I've added some screenshots of my own implementation so you can see kind of what I did in terms of my display for the project. Okay, so anyway, that's from the reminders, that project. So I'm going to go back to the lab, and I'm going to do a subset of the lab. I didn't want you to sit here and wait for me to download a 3 gigabyte thing. But I do want to show you what the instructions look like, and then I'll see how fast I can do my own setup. I have not done the installing the virtual machine yet, so we're going to see what that feels like on my Linux machine. Okay, anyway, so I'm in the first lab. We will be focusing on installing a functional programming environment for use in the course. So like I said earlier, we're using a special language called HLA, stands for High Level Assembly. The cool thing about HLA is that it allows us to write high-level programming like we're used to from C++ or Go or Python, but it also allows us to strip away the high-level features and write in low-level assembly style code. So what we'll do over the course of the semester is we'll slowly sort of take away the high-level programming techniques and replace them with assembly style techniques. Assembly is the actual processor instructions. You'll get this out of the material. But anyway, that's what this software is about. And then we'll test it by making a small piece of software with it. I have heard of Codecademy. As far as I know, they don't have a module for HLA, but if someone finds high-level assembly out there in an environment online, I would love to hear about it, because it would make all of our lives a little bit easier. Bummer. Okay, so let me show you what the instructions look like. So step 1 is to download and install Oracle VM. So I'm just going to open that up in a separate tab so that I don't lose my lab page. So what I've done is I've made a series of instructions that goes step by step through the process, and then little screenshots. If there's a change, like VirtualBox becomes version 6.2 and that's 6.2, don't worry about that. Just click the thing. So you'll download this software. Anyway, what these guides do is they take you step by step. I used a Windows machine to do this, because I assume most of you would be working in Windows. So if you're on a Mac, or you're like me and you're working in a Linux machine, it's going to look slightly different, but not so different that it should throw you off. Anyway, step by step, downloading VirtualBox, installing VirtualBox, and then finally, somewhere at the end, you are ready to go. So I'm going to toggle my display a little bit so you can see mine. So go away and then show that. So it looks a little bit different on my Linux machine, but that's my VirtualBox downloaded, installed, ready to go. So that's the guide for this first step, download and install. The second one is to download, import, and launch a virtual machine. So when you click this link, it's going to ask you to save a very large file, and I apologize for this. I could have made it a little bit smaller, but I wanted to leave some of the goodies inside of it so that it would feel more friendly to you if you've never used a Linux before. Now I'm going to get it running and show you that it's not anything to be intimidated by, but 3 gigs I know is a lot, so I apologize for that. You only have to do it once. I did it this morning just to make sure it was still there and still came down. But when you click on that download link, it's going to ask you to download this file. There's another set of instructions, so after the download is completed, there's another set of instructions for how do I add this virtual machine to my installation? So it picks up where we left off from the first step. Now you notice this says, oh wait, you can't see anything. Let me put that back. Here's the instructions for the virtual machine image installation, and it starts where we left off with VirtualBox. So if you haven't used a virtual machine before, it's basically a piece of software that allows you to run a different operating system inside your own operating system as if it were a separate program. So on your Windows machine or on your Mac, you will be running a Linux computer, a virtual Linux computer that has our software tools in it. Anyway, that guide is the same, has steps, has pictures. The pictures are labeled to call your attention to the important bits. I'm about to do this step, and hopefully it doesn't take very long. And then once you get to the end, it actually gets you all the way through the process of how do I actually get inside of that machine and start using it. Yes, so Captain Price points out now that should, I don't know, I didn't have to do anything in my BIOS on my Windows machine that I only use for games, so I'm hoping it's true for other people that you haven't disabled virtualization, but if you have problems, we will work through it. So if you have problems getting this software set up, we will work through it. If it causes a delay in submitting labs, we will deal with that. But for me, I tried it on a sort of a Windows machine that I've never manipulated in any way. It just worked. So I hope that that's the experience for other people. Also on my Linux machine, which is an Intel processor, I haven't touched anything. But if you do have problems, let me know. And we will work through it. So anyway, the virtual... Okay. If something doesn't work when you're installing this stuff, it just won't work. Don't assume that you're doing something wrong at a point. Like, make sure you follow the steps, but if you follow all the steps and it's just not working, then get in touch with me and we will work through the problem. That's interesting that HP, do they even exist? I didn't even know they existed anymore. Okay, so those steps. I'm about to do these steps. There's a spot in here where you have to wait for a bit, and that'll be a place where I can field questions for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to go do mine. So here's my setup. I have, let me get these things front and center. Is that going to move? No. Okay, so I just need to get where I can see it. You'll notice that my virtual box is a little bit different, but I'll show you the icon. And then I also have this, I downloaded my file to a different place, but it's 3.3 gigs. So here we go. On my Linux VirtualBox, there's no import icon up here, but under the file menu, there is an import. Now I haven't tested this on this Linux machine, so if I hit a hiccup, then you'll see it happen to me too. Although I don't expect it to, we'll see. So import appliance, just like it says in the guide. Generally speaking, can you see that? You cannot see that dialog, can you? I'm going to have to add that dialog too. Okay, let me add that dialog. Okay, there's that dialog. Yeah, it is a little bit funny, isn't it? A Linux inside of a Linux. Okay, so one rule of thumb when you're installing things is unless you know better, don't change stuff. So the guide will tell you to click on this link right here and to navigate to the place where you downloaded that Lubuntu file. Now I don't know if I might have to switch to showing you my whole desktop. I am going to have to switch to showing you my whole desktop. So if I don't respond to comments for a bit, it's because I need to show you my whole desktop. So let me switch all of that stuff off, and then just see if I can show you the whole desktop. I can't. Okay, so it's going to be easier if I just keep switching things around. There's two. Oh, wait, here's the dialog. Okay, good. I got it somewhere where I can show it to you. Maybe. Anyway, what I'm about to do is I'm about to navigate to that Ubuntu file and select it. So instead of wasting your time too much, I'm just going to go do that. That one? No. That one. Okay. So the thing you'll want to do, and it says it in the instructions, just confirm that you did actually land on that downloaded file. Then I'm going to click Next. Hopefully you're still seeing that dialog. You are. So general rule of thumb, don't change anything. So I'm not going to change anything. Now if you want to change something, just sort of pay attention to what you're changing. But I'm not changing anything. I'm just going to click on Import. And then I'm going to wait for a bit while the software runs. So let me check chat while that's running. Now I've only tested this on Windows, so I figured not testing it might actually be a good idea, because if I encounter a problem, then there's probably a chance that you also will encounter that problem. You can't see the wait, but what's happening right now is we are waiting. So here we are waiting. Okay. So the waiting's over. It went faster than I thought. But anyway, when you're done, you get your new virtual machine. It's called Ubuntu. It says powered off. The next step is to start it. And I'm going to have to show this screen when I get it going. But the instructions will tell you to click Start to launch the virtual machine. So you're kind of booting up a virtual computer here. And we'll see how it runs on my machine. I do not have a whole lot of RAM on here. It's probably an 8 gig machine, which I know is not a small amount, but it's not a super powerful computer. Okay, let me show it to you. Okay, so there it is. I will make it bigger for you to see. So there's my Linux machine, my virtual machine of Linux running inside of my real machine, which is also Linux. Yeah, 20 gigs, I think that you're going to be just fine. Okay, so if you're following the instructions, it will tell you that the password is password. This machine is not meant to be a super fancy or, a hyper secure. If you know how to change the password, you can. That's fine. Once you have this virtual machine running, it is yours. I just recommend not making big changes to it until you get accustomed to it. The password is password. P-A-S. Oh, I'm not in the machine. Click in the machine. I don't feel like it's capturing my keyboard. But let's see. There it is. Okay. I just wasn't clicking in the machine. Anyway, password, P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D, all lowercase letters. You'll see that in the guide. And then press Enter to log in. Okay, let me shrink this back down. Not like you care if you can see me or not, but I care if I can see me. So here's your virtual machine. I think, yeah, so on Linux, you can stretch the window out and it will try to adjust. Linux is not doing that all that nicely, but it will do it a little bit. So this gets you to the point where you can actually do the lab. 12.13. So there's a guide for this. Let me show you real quick the guide. I need to turn this one off, turn that one off. Get the guide back. Can you see the guide? You can. Okay, so if you go to the lab, there's actually a separate guide for completing the lab. It repeats some of the steps, so you notice as you select your machine, click Start, log in with password, press Enter, and now it has you on the desktop. So this will walk you through everything. So I'm going to do this part fast so that I can let you get out of here. But all these steps that I'm about to do are repeated and screen captured in this guide. And the guide is linked into the assignment. So there's instructions for the virtual box, there's instructions for the virtual machine that goes in the virtual box, and then there's instructions for actually doing the lab to test the programming environment. Now I'm going to do it real quick. That can be a problem. I can tell you, so the question is, if I have like drag and drop and copy and paste problems, what's the solution to that? My sort of quick answer is, let me get rid of, and then show this one again. My quick answer, or my quick solution to the problem is, what if I can't copy and paste and drag and drop? I would just probably use the virtual machine to go into Canvas. So the virtual machine has a Firefox web browser in it. And if you have any kind of problem copying and pasting in and out of the virtual machine, the quick fix would be just simply to do the work using the browser inside of the virtual machine. And then the harder fix, which we can talk about like during a Zoom session or something, is to try to reinstall what they call the host tools, or whatever it is that they're called. There are other potential solutions. Okay, I'm going to do the lab. So to do the lab, there's a folder on the desktop called CSCI 10 ASM, meaning assembly. In here you will find a starter file. But before you go poking around on the starter file, what you want to do, and the guide talks about this, click the tool menu and open a terminal here. So this is where we will run compiler and program running commands. The thing to note when you do the open terminal step is to make sure that the terminal says CSCI 10 ASM, just like the folder says CSCI 10 ASM. So you're basically executing commands into this folder. The second step is to open this starter file in the text editor. So I'm going to launch the text editor. Try to keep it sort of smushy down here at the bottom of the screen. You can see everything, can't you? Yeah. And then I'm going to go open. I'm going to go navigate to it. But basically, go navigate. It's on the desktop, the CSCI 10 assembly folder. Navigate to the starter file and open it. There's a question about how do you change directories inside of the terminal. It's with the cd or change directories command. I typed an answer in chat. So yeah, one thing some of you may end up doing is experimenting and moving or learning how to operate at the terminal, but you don't have to if you don't want. Okay, so you'll notice that the code is lit up, and that's one of the advantages of me giving you this virtual machine, is I was able to create the syntax highlighting for our language, which I can't find anywhere. Um, anyway, so here's the program. You'll notice in the instructions it says to update the documentation. So for me, that means I'm going to change the assignment name to be Lab 1. Or I could say, if I wanted to be more explicit, I could say Week 1 Lab Assignment. Should be the same thing. I'm going to put my name in here. If it's a team project, then you may have more than one person named in here. And then the date that I did it, which is today, which is 24 of August. I know, I like to put my dates in this order. It's just, yeah, it's very similar to C++. There's some things that you're not going to like at first, but it is very similar to C++. So the question is, if someone helps you, should you put your name in here? I think that's kind of a, if you think they provided enough help, you might say something like, and you can add stuff. So you might say, like, assisted by. So yeah, you could do something like that, but it's not required. Only on a team project is it required. But you can do that, and that would be a nice touch. Okay, the other thing that the assignment asks us to do is change world to your own name. So I'm going to have it greet me. So this is very important. In fact, let's leave world and do that as a second step so you can see me repeat this work twice. This is all in the guide, the instructions for the lab. Whenever you touch the code, I don't care a whole lot. I think on projects, so the question is there too many comments? For me on the labs, put as many comments as you need, because it can be helpful to go back and use your own comments as reference. On the projects, I would say scrub out or delete the comments that aren't meaningful so that those look a little bit more polished. But for the weekly labs, like, leave all the comments that you need to as a reference for yourself. Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't change world yet. I'm pointing at it because you can see that. Okay, anyway, I did update the comments. So the workflow, you change some code, you save it. You'll notice, by the way, that when I hadn't saved it, there was a star up here, and when I did save it. So the editor will have a star if you have not saved a change. Saved it. Now I'm going to go to the command terminal. To compile an HLA file, you type HLA followed by the name of the file that you're compiling, which for us is starter.hla. If everything is good in the world, then nothing happens. If you get a whole bunch of output, you probably have errors. And I also have an example, by the way, of what happens if I make an error in the guides. Yeah, do try to break it. So it's compiled. If you go back and look in the folder, by the way, you'll see two new things. One is this file called starter.o. That is just kind of garbage that's created in the process of the program being compiled. And then starter, that's the actual program. So to run it, you go to the command line, you type // this is just a Unix thing, // and then starter. So starter.hla is the source code, and starter is the compiled program. And if you hit enter, it'll say hello world. So I'm going to go back over and I'm going to change it, and then we'll be done. So I'm going to go back over here. The first lab asked me to update the, I'll say nice people, by the way, because, hold on, I got a freeze on my virtual machine. I have a freeze on my virtual machine. I don't know why. Well, just going to wait until it catches up. Something going on. There we go. There was a freeze for a second. I just had to wait it out. Okay, so the lab says to update the, but what I meant to, oh no, I still can't touch it. Look, I still can't do anything in here. I'm going to close this if it lets me and restart it. Haven't had this experience before, so I don't know what it is, but everything else kinda does stuff. Well, kinda sometimes doesn't do stuff. I have a freeze. Let me see if I can hit enter in here. I can hit enter in there. Depends on the Linux. So there's a question about how do you get to a task manager in Linux. It depends. You have to do it for. I don't want to mess anybody up, but there's a command called PS on the command line that lets you look at tasks or processes. So you might, if you want to sort of get a handle on the command line, look up the command PS and how do you use it to kill a running program. So yeah, wait. I think I have it back. What's not working, by the way, is my mouse. Yeah, what's not working is my mouse, so that's interesting. I don't know why. I'm just going to use my keyboard then. So what I wanted to do is say nice people, because there's multiple people here. This may happen. I mean, I haven't had this happen to me on a Windows machine, but for some reason it's happening to me. It wants you to change your name and save it. So you'll notice the star came up because there are unsaved changes in here. I'm going to see if it'll let me click save. Something's being funny. About my mouse in the Linux system. I'm going to use the keyboard, so if you don't know it, Control S saves. Yeah, so Control S did save. It's kind of funny that I can't kill this thing. Anyway, everybody else seems to work. So I made some changes. I saved it. I hope that you don't have the mouse freezing problem. The nuclear option is to shut down the whole virtual machine and restart it. But I am able, it's just the text editor that seems to be misbehaving, so I am able to get back to the terminal. I should be able to recompile. And then I should be able to run it, and now it says hello Boyd instead of hello world. Why this thing is stuck is a bit of a mystery. Like I can't move it. Yes. There may be, so that's the end. I am going to, so if you want to knock off right now, it's fine. That's a quick walkthrough of the lab. There's also a guide online with screen captures that show you the process. If you end up fighting other like this, I hope that you don't. Just please let me know and we will make adjustments and fixes as we need to. I'm going to go down here and treat this like a Windows machine. It has a start button down here. And I'm going to look in System Tools and see if there is some kind of a process manager that I can use. I'm going to try this top thing. Yeah, so top is a process viewer, but I don't know if it will let me get rid of processes. But I'm going to click that and see if I can I have the same problem here, is that the mouse is totally froze up. Although the window closed, so that's encouraging. I don't know. I feel like I have to restart my virtual machine. So I'm going to stop there. I hope that your experience is smoother than my own, which is just some kind of weirdness that the mouse kind of partially works and partially doesn't work. So that's the lab. Again, just let me know, and we can throw it in discussion as we encounter in Piazza or during Zoom time or whatever. I have not had this problem on a Windows machine, so fingers crossed that you don't have this problem on whatever machine you are using. Um, anyway, so thank all of you for being here, and thanks to those of you who are able to stick around the whole time. I apologize. This was a long meeting. I'll try to control the broadcast to be less time, but this is the first day of the semester, so I wanted to make sure I also got through all the content. So I hope all of you have a good day. You're going to see me leave the broadcast up for a couple of minutes while I see what happens while I try to kill this. But otherwise, I'm going to sign off. If you want to meet with me and let me get to know you face to face, consider signing up for a 15-minute block on Confer Zoom, or join me on Wednesday at 11 for the everybody can come and ask questions part Zoom meeting. True that. I guess we all just sort of need to sit back and take a deep breath and just deal with it as it comes. That's a good point, Captain Price. Good point. All right, everybody take care. But you are going to see me mess around for a second while I kill this thing. Oh, the start button, by the way, that's how you shut it down. Yeah, big warning about unsaved work. I believe it's saved, but it's not big enough where I care right now, so leaving and coming back. Maybe. Oh, except for the mouse. Well, we'll see. Hee. I hit enter instead of clicking it with the mouse because it's my mouse who's misbehaving. Okay, that's me, everybody. Again, if you have problems, we will work through them and get it worked out.